This isn't just a podcast, it's a reckoning, a calling, a return to what's real, to what's right, to what's yours. Because somewhere along the way, leadership became a game of sacrifice, success became a cage, and legacy, something you leave behind instead of something you live right now. The modern culture is here to change that. This is where old rules crumble and something truer, deeper, and far more powerful takes their place. Where leadership is about presence, where success is aligned, and where legacy lives in every moment you choose to lead differently. Co-hosted by Cari and Leah Rowling, this is the space where fire meets flow, where strategy bows to wisdom, and where disruption isn't feared, it's embraced. If you're ready to build without burnout, to create without compromise, to lead in a way that feels like you, welcome to the modern culture.
Welcome, friends. Welcome to the final chapter of this season on the modern culture. It's not just a close, it's a culmination. Today, we're talking about the principle that weaves everything else into meaning, the thread that turns ideas into impact and the force that shapes how your leadership is felt long after you leave the room. And that is honor. Not the surface kind, not the applause or the title or the highlight reel. We're talking about the soul of leadership, the way you carry what you care about, how you see people, how you hold your word, how you walk when no one's watching. Honor is not loud, but it is ridiculously powerful. It doesn't chase being right. It's committed to being real. It's committed to being honest. It's committed to evolution, yours and everyone that feels you. It's the principle that allows you to speak hard truths, hold boundaries with love, and build cultures that last beyond you. So in this episode, we get to dive into why honor is often misunderstood, how to live it without ego or performance, and how it becomes the standard that turns your leadership from just impressive to unforgettable. Because legacy, as we've said in every episode to this time, isn't about what you leave behind. It's about how you carry it all right now. This is Principle 10. This is honor. Welcome, Miss Cari.
Hi, love.
Hi.
What a culmination.
Right.
What an ending to the principles, and such a powerful reminder of that authenticity, of that compassion, of the integrity, of everything that we have navigated through and to up and to this point. And in all of it, there's always reason to celebrate, always reason to have that essence of gratitude in that honor. And it is so much deeper and further and more expressive than any applause, than any accolade will ever share or show or leave. Applause quiets, awards tarnish, but the integrity of you and the honor in which you lead every single moment, every single step you take is what carries through. So in that, Miss Leah, do you want to walk us through what this principle really is versus what it is not?
Yes. I think honor, because it's invisible, it can be lost, but it is the thread that holds leadership together. It's each and every one of us It's our internal compass that guides how we treat people, how we care about people, how we uphold our values, and we carry out our commitments, right? At its core, honor is about reverence. Reverence for others, reverence for ourselves, for the truth, for the moment, and for the legacy that we're building in real time, whatever that looks like. It's not about performance. It's not about praise. It's not about being liked or followed or even respected to that point. Those are just outcomes. Honor is it's a posture. It's a way of seeing and holding space without judgment. It's about seeing and holding what matters, especially when it's really hard, when it's harder than it's ever been, and especially when no one's watching and when no one would know differently except you. I think people confuse it with respect, but there's a difference. Respect is transactional. It can be earned or lost based on behavior. Honor is transformational. It's a decision within to elevate, not because someone has to prove their worth, but because you've chosen to lead from yours. It's not ego, it's not protecting image. It's not about never making mistakes. It's about how you respond when you do, the accountability that you offer, the apology that's on the other end of it. And it's not just a quick fix, sorry. It's a, you know what, I am sorry. I can do better and I will. It's about staying congruent, even when it costs you comfort, when it costs you approval, and when it costs you any sort of false sense of control. That's what I would say honor is and what it is not.
Well, that is quite beautiful. That is quite beautiful. And I don't even know what you could say on top of that other than it is such when you get to the end of the day, where that honor is concerned,
Mhm.
and when you really truly live in that space of honor, it is a stripping down of ego.
Yes.
It is a stripping down of everything that you thought of every way you thought you needed to show up, of everything thought you needed to do in order to prove your value. It is a coming home, and it is that quiet fire that sits within. It is that thing that will continuously knock on the door if you're sitting outside of it. And it is different than integrity. It is not integrity. It is truly that honor of self. It is that authentic voice that comes from within. So what then is the science? Leah, what's the science behind this?
Well, you would think because it's kind of invisible that it isn't rooted in science. And like with all of our principles, it is deeply rooted. At a neurological level, it aligns with what we'll call moral congruence, right? The harmony between your values and your actions, right? When you lead with honor, your brain experiences coherence, right? That heart and head coherence. That activates, like all of our principles, the prefrontal cortex, right? Which supports empathy and clarity and decision making and problem solving. Without activating this part of your brain, again, like in all the other principles, we're walking around navigating like 2-year-olds with sippy cups, right? Psychologically, honor builds integrity based trust, right? Yes, with others, but darn it, more importantly, with yourself, right? Which is more enduring than that performance based trust. If I do this, then they will trust me. It creates safety, loyalty, and high engagement in teams, but also safety and loyalty and high engagement within yourself. And organizational research shows that honorable leaders that understand this principle, not just as a transaction checkbox, but as a way of thinking and feeling and showing up in the world, fosters legacy cultures, right? Not built on charisma and control, but on a sense of, I would just say it, shared honor, where everyone is honored in the ownership of not even their role or their responsibility, but in their humanity. is what I would say. So when we've kind of walked through the science of all of the principles, and in each of the principles, if you've missed them, go back and give yourself a huge gift of conscious, principled leadership, right? But when we think about the signs, like if someone was listening to this, how would they know whether or not they've embodied honor or they haven't? What shows up for them?
An unease.
Mm-hmm.
An unease and a discomfort, and not the discomfort of stepping into something unknown, and not the uncomfort of sometimes stepping away from what doesn't align, because in taking those action steps there is some discomfort, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the uncomfortable space is that internal second guessing. It is that internal soul whisper that just doesn't stop. And what happens is you'll tend to say yes, and everything inside of you is screaming no. And not in a fear way, because intuition, that inner soul essence, doesn't scream at you. It whispers, but it creates this little ting of anxiety, this little like, And so when you're not living in that place of integrity, things don't come from ease. And that honor is very much that embodiment of your own truth, the embodiment of who it is that you are, and allowing your voice, your essence, your everything to be so internally and authentically and amazingly you. And when you step outside of that, when you water yourself down, when you're efforting to make other people comfortable, then that's where this discomfort will lie, and you will second guess. The problem is that there is a payoff to all of it, right? The more you effort to prove yourself, the more accolades, the more applause you get, the more awards from outside, in whatever way, shape, or form that those awards may come to you, there's a payoff. And so we don't put ourselves in a position to face the fact that maybe we've outgrown something, or to risk disappointing somebody else. You get to belong. You get to belong, and you get to be part of something, but it comes at a cost of your wholeness. And that's not a currency that you can spend. Like when you dishonor your voice, you truly, like you said in the beginning, Leah, you fracture your ability to lead because you don't have clarity. You make yourself small, you make yourself quiet, you're easy to digest, but you will be incredibly, incredibly uncomfortable in the realm of all of it.
It's so beautiful, easy to digest. How many of us are showing up smaller than we are, mitigating the space that we deserve to take up just so we make it easier for somebody else to be comfortable? So brilliant.
Yeah.
So brilliant. So why? So why now? Why 2025 right now, this time, especially for the leaders of the world? And as we have put forward in this, if you are listening to this, I don't care if you work for somebody, if you have people working for you, if you have children, if you don't have children, you are a leader, because these are all self-leadership principles. So for all of the humans of the world, why is this so important now more than ever?
Well, the first thing I would say to that is, if you don't come back home to that honor of self, the universe will do it for you. So let me say that first and foremost, that the more you have the ability to ask the questions, to get curious, to stop and listen, the easier it is, and with more ease that you have to be able to step into the honor. So first, I would say it's important, because if you don't, the universe will. But we're also living in a time, I don't know if people have noticed, where the loudest voice in the room is mistaken to be the wisest one.
Mm.
And it's not,
Mm-hmm.
right? When we do that performance-based, that prove-it driven versus passion-driven, those values scream from social media, from posters, from all over the place, and the trust quietly dies.
Mm-hmm.
What honor does is it invites you to lead from a deeper space, not visibility, not status, but simply the soul. Because if we're not living it, if we're bending to keep things polite and nice, then we're building emptiness. And when all of the applause stops, when all the accolades stop, that's when honor is going to start to root in. When you have the ability to sit and come back home to passion, to come back home to purpose, and be purpose and passion oriented versus prove it driven, that's the difference between building a legacy and living in a loop. And too often
Mm-hmm.
we live in that loop. Too often we live in that pattern, and we might become aware for a moment and then too easily slip back in. And part of it is because we haven't realized that we have the opportunity and the ability to pause. The world has not granted us permission to pause. And if you watch anything, if you see anybody around you, it is a constant scramble. It's a scramble for what's next. It's a scramble for the next of anything. And I wonder what would happen if we just paused for a moment and sat outside of that scramble and looked at that pattern or looked at that loop and really got curious about it and really dissected the source of it and allowed ourselves to come back home to ourselves instead of constantly living in that loop. Could we break that pattern? Could we break that pattern?
It's so good. It's so good. So many things in there. The things that I wrote down and hopefully our listenership did as well. But legacy versus living in a loop. If you feel that you're living in a loop, you're most likely not living in legacy. Your legacy, the one that you get to create on purpose, and your legacy isn't looped, right? It's lived. And the other thing that you said, wrote down, and we've said it on podcasts before, but this idea of leadership to prove or leadership of passion, and just taking a beat, a pause to see, am what I'm efforting, am I doing that because I'm passionate about it? Or am I efforting that to prove that that I am worthy to be passionate of it? So that's what came to me. And to the pause to sit outside the scramble. Like, wow. Because in the scramble, back to the science of it, there is no conscious thoughts. There is no problem solving. There is no decision making in the scramble. And so for so many of us are making decisions in the scramble.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, we just create more scramble problems.
Yeah.
Right?
No, we do.
So, oh my
And then
gosh.
that becomes the energy we communicate, right? Is if
Yes.
we're in the scramble and we're efforting from the scramble and we're moving into the what's next without sitting and having a conscious awareness around what it is that we're doing, that we're
Mm-hmm.
just perpetuating the scramble. And that energy, like that pinball machine, just goes out and it taps into scramble everywhere. And that's what returns back to you.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what can our listeners do to, other than the pause, or in addition to the pause,
Mhm.
to come back home, right, to themselves, to recognize that they're in a loop, they're scrambling, um, they're efforting to prove as opposed to just step into. What can they do?
Two things came to mind before, like one even before you asked the question, but um, look at your life. Look at your life. If you were to sit back and assess, where is it that you're spending your time? And what is it that you're doing? And are you truly living? Are you truly living, or are you just moving from this thing to this thing to this thing to this thing? And it could be, I'm moving from work to a kid's game to a this to a that to a that. But are you truly living? That would be the first question. If you were to sit, again, get outside the scramble and set aside all of the expectations, all of the obligations, like, what does that life look like? And what would you want it to look like? What would you want it to look like? The second thing, you know what? Talk to those you love. That's what I would say. Talk to those you love, because I think you might find it fascinating, the feedback you receive. You might find it fascinating because they can tend to, again, be that reflective mirror back where you can't see the blind spots, where you think you're doing absolutely everything that you need to be doing. Right? I'm getting all of the things done. I'm checking all the boxes. I'm making sure all of this is happening. And I need to be here, and I need to be here, and I need to be doing this, and I need to be doing this. And if you sit back and you just ask the question, or if you listen to what they say, even in your presence, they may say they miss you.
Mm-hmm.
So those would be just a few of those, like, really checking that awareness, really coming home and seeing what feels the most uncomfortable to you. Like you had said earlier, Leah, like, what is uncomfortable? What is it that you're doing that doesn't feel aligned?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say for a practice, for a question, for an insight, for anything for the listeners to be able to navigate through, to help them come home to?
Well, I love, and so I'll just echo what you said as a double challenge.
Okay, like
Ask
it.
the people that you love. I wonder, and so I'll take this one step further. I want everyone that's listening to this, and to all of the people that have, to you all that share this, and we thank you in advance. If you were to ask the people that you love, do you think I live happily? Do you think that I am joyful? Would you say that I'm fulfilled in how I live my life? What do you think they would say? You don't even necessarily have to ask the question, although I love asking the question, but what do you think that they would say? And if that's not a wake-up call, if that's not a wake-up call to return home to the joy and the happiness and the fulfillment that's rightfully yours, I don't know what is. So I would just echo that with a challenge for you to ask yourself that same question. What do you think they would say?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I would also um, pause when you're feeling this sense of urgency, because I think honor dies in it. I know it does for me.
You know what? And I would echo that. I truly believe that.
Hmm. When
Mhm.
I'm racing and scrambling and right, there's a sense of urgency. There's a sense of impatience there. And what I believe about impatience is that impatience comes, at least for me, when I'm not trusting this moment. Because the only reason why I would be impatient in this moment is I don't believe that this moment is better than it would be there. That I believe that there is better than here.
Mhm.
It's the only reason why I would be impatient right now in this time is if I believe that some other timeline would be better in my life. And so I get curious about how I can make this moment in time better. And then the urgency and the impatience fades. And then I can come back into honor. And so, can we do that? Can we make it a conscious practice before we have conversations, before we make decisions, so that we can actually make them from our highest order, most conscious self, so we don't make life harder than it needs to be? by having to reconcile toddler decisions and toddler conversations where we're forced to at least consider an apology because we weren't as conscious as we could have been in that moment of that conversation exchange. So that's the only other thing that I would add is can we pause before conversation, before decisions, before trying to scramble into that what's next, and really become present in this now, not urgent, not impatient, but just to have a convicted belief that we're okay right now, that we're okay. And so are you right now. That's what I'd say.
And I think just absolutely the perfect way to close this forward. So thank you, Leah. That was incredible.
You're welcome. Okay, beautiful friends. If you ask and you sit with whatever you're navigating right now, whatever challenge, whatever obstacle, whatever struggle that you feel is so heavy that you can't unburden yourself from, if you just honor yourself with a beat and you close your eyes and you ask, you will feel that you're okay. Because you are. You're going to be okay. And take that as confidence and as proof that you get to create and build whatever it is that you choose. So it's been an honor to be in this journey with each and every one of you, to walk through these principles. We invite you to share them. We invite you to live them. We invite you to honor yourself and life itself and have a reverence for it in order to take these principles and you as serious as you are and you deserve to be in it.
Thank you, dear friends.
Thank you.
You have been listening to The Modern Culture, co-hosted by Leah Rowling and Carrie Kenzie. This is the space where fire meets flow, where strategy bows to wisdom, and where disruption isn't feared, it's embraced. Tune in every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Transformation Network, because this isn't just a podcast. It's a reckoning, a calling, a return.
Views expressed on this program are